Hello, and welcome to this edition of the Law Firm Blueprint. We're back again, and I am one of your hosts, Jay Ruane, CEO of Ruane Attorneys, a criminal defense and civil rights firm in Connecticut, as well as the Grand Poobah, myself, of the Criminal Mastermind. Seth, my man over there, is all things digital with Price Benowitz, DC, Maryland, Virginia, and South Carolina, and soon to be in Iowa, as well as Blue Shark Digital, SEO and digital marketing for law firms. Seth, it's been a couple of weeks. I was on break. I got to be a lawyer on the beach in Puerto Rico, which was fabulous. I know you got to take a little bit of a break and head out to Vegas and see your pals at MTMP. So we haven't been together. How have you been?
Things are good. I actually got my weekend. We did a Virgin cruise with my wife, no kids.
Oh, wow.
Which was really cool.
How are those Virgin cruises? I'm interested.
The best I could say, it's like the Cosmo Hotel in Vegas on the water.
Okay.
Richard Branson threw out all the rules. He doesn't have buffets. He doesn't have big dining rooms. It's boutique little places. It's really quite nice. And if you splurge for the suite class that my wedding planner told me I had to do, it makes for a lovely voyage because you have your own space with champagne at 5 o'clock that is really decadent.
I like that.
And open, and then there's a party raging a few feet away if that's your jam.
Yeah, it's funny. Parties raging are no longer my jam.
No, but so when they so there's a big party on these ships, the Red Night, Scarlet Night. Okay. And it's epic. It's around the pool, but me and the other middle-aged people and my wife are sitting on the upper deck watching down as the gymnasts, the acrobats, the drag queens are putting on a show for the ages.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah, so you could be vicariously looking in at the people that are young and hip while staying out of the fray.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I actually wound up in Puerto Rico with 4 other families, 10 adults, 25 kids. We kind of took over the pool area of our hotel, and it was great. I had a great time, made some money at the casino there, and really just got to spend some downtime. I didn't bring my laptop, which is rare for me, but it was awesome. But there's one thing that I did bring with me, and it's actually, I don't know if you can see it, that box over my shoulder here, that's got the first press pre-editing copies of Tiger Tactics 2, the CEO edition. And we're going to be talking about that in the months to come as we get ready to put that out. Seth's one of the co-authors with me, Ryan McKean, and a whole bunch of other people. Bill Umansky, Billy Tarasio are back. But then we have people like Allison Williams, Elise Buie, Joey Vitale. We've got some great co-authors that are going to be contributing to this edition, and it's really sort of it's starting to pick up speed and momentum, which is really awesome. But Seth, I got something I need to talk to you about, and it was brought up to me yesterday in a meeting with one of my senior lawyers, somebody in my management team. And it's been troubling me. I had a bad night of sleep about it, and I wanted to get your feedback on it. And here's my dilemma. I've been growing this firm essentially since September 1st, 2001. So which we started, and September 11th happened, and nobody started going out, and people weren't going out and getting arrested. And so we had a rocky start, and then COVID obviously, bookends that 20 plus years later. So there's been ups and downs. But when I started my practice, I really kind of just hung a shingle on my own. I didn't really have much in terms of an inventory of cases. I didn't have much that I could spend. And so it became a lot of sweat equity, in me learning digital marketing. And that's how I've gotten to the place that I am today. And, trying to find the cheaper way to get something done, get 90% effective or 70% effective with something that was free or cheap, rather than spending the money on the actual product that was out there in the market, because I just didn't have that. I didn't have the credit card bandwidth. I didn't have the money in my pocket. I was literally living hand to mouth. I didn't even make any student loan payments my first year and a half of practice. And my entire being, ever since we started this thing, has really come from a position of scarcity. And so I find myself now with that lens, with that, I've built up that, that callus, that scab, whatever you want to call it, that anytime something is presented to me, I immediately say, no, we're not going to spend money on that. We're not going to spend money on that. Somebody comes to me and they want, a raise even, and I'm saying, no, they can go find another job elsewhere. Now that certainly has some implications today in the market. But I'm trying to break this scarcity mindset, and it's not a scarcity because I look at my numbers and I've got revenue coming in. I mean, we're opening up 35, 40 files, 50 files some weeks. I mean, the business is there. And from a perspective of we've got the lead flow, I should not have the scarcity mindset. But like I am thinking, here's a perfect example. I live my life on my laptop, right? I mean, I am constantly doing stuff with it. I've had the same laptop now for a couple of years. I've been eyeing a new Apple. It's going to cost me like $5,000 with all the bells and whistles. I can't pull the trigger on that. Now that is like, less than 0.1% of my annual revenue. And I mean, it's probably 1/100th. But I can't pull the trigger on spending $5,000 on something like that when I can make it another year. I haven't bought a new car, in a decade.
Let's separate the things out, right? They're different pieces because they're ones. And I struggle with this myself, right? I'm a frugal person by nature. One of the areas I think we've broken, which I think is most, if you're going to line up an order of importance, it's salaries. To me, the idea like that is one that costs you more money than anything else.
Sure.
Is not ponying up and making sure you're at market, because market's whatever people can get somewhere else,
right?
Not what we have set in our mind. We talked about this on prior episodes, how starting salaries out of college went from 35 to 42 to 50 to 55 overnight. We're seeing softening. Good news for all the salary talks we've had and all the hiring talks. Finally, for anybody out there hiring, I think you got a window. But believe me, in my last week, I asked the office, hey, let's take it easy on the Uber Eats. Let's find the places that deliver directly so we're not paying 35% to the house. Some of the stuff makes sense. Some of it doesn't. I'm lucky enough to have a law partner who does not have that mindset. He's the guy who over tips, picks up tabs, and has shown me, not that you don't, and you do that. So to be fair, anybody who's met Jay, he's the first one to pick up a tab. So it's not that, but that I think that as I've seen stuff, particularly at Blue Shark, where I'm less hands-on to day-to-day, it's become part of the ethos where it's out of sight, out of mind. And as long as the numbers at the end of the day are okay, allowing a little bit more to breathe. Believe me, the difference between a small team gathering where you get like a takeout from a place versus calling the catering department and having something catered, it is what I would love to see is people that spend money the way I do. And frankly, the way you do. It's tough because as you grow, there's going to be a certain amount of inefficiencies, and I'm trying to get good with that. I put old school techniques, old school, new school. Please, if you're taking an Uber, check Uber and Lyft. That's all I say. And then I'm good. Whatever it is, it is. Right. Whereas for me, I'm gaming it from the moment the plane lands to make sure that if there's a spike that I know to wait. Nobody else is doing that. Right. And I think that if you want to scale, and we talked to Andrew Finkelstein, getting comfortable with mediocrity, or if you're not comfortable with a certain amount of inefficiency, you can't scale because nobody's going to be as frugal as you, and nobody's going to work for the numbers that are in your head.
Yeah, I mean, and that's part of my challenge is like I was looking last night and I was up in arms that we've been paying $10 a month for software as a service application that we haven't used in a year because we transitioned to something else. Nobody bothered to cancel this thing. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, I just spent $110 on nothing. Now, in the grand scheme of my life, that's nothing.
We paid, I just got one of these things. I was paying for retargeting for a site that I didn't control, at like $150 a month for 7 months. A good friend of mine who's not a lawyer talks of it as the tax of life. There are times when you buy theater tickets and you forget you have shows that night where, you got to get a kid to something and your kids are young, but you put them in an Uber, even though it's $200 and super surge. There are things parking tickets, those things that as you get to the point where, hey, I can't allow that because if you get too much in the weeds in that, But I'll tell you the flip side. One of the great entrepreneurs who recently died, who created Sky Vodka and did a bunch of other amazing things, his nephew quoted him in one of the national business magazines as saying, there are days where he thought that he was more concerned with the cost of what the toilet paper was coming into the office than like top line numbers. It's part of the genius. It's also a curse.
Yeah, I mean, it really, I'm struggling with it. I'm trying to get better at it, where I can just say to people on my team, look, I trust you to do what's right in the best interest of the office. And knowing,
and within parameters, like anything else, right? I mean, if you see stuff and it's crazy, but if you want it to be more than the Jay show, which you may not, you struggle with that, and if you do, right, and you want to be more, and you've probably expanded as much as the Jay show could be, but if you really want to be on a beach and you it's not just lip service, then okay, let's say hypothetically there's going to be $100,000 in bullshit that gets done because your thumb's not on it. Now I look at it this way, let's go personal for a second. You selected a dream, which is getting dream seats for Yankee Stadium.
Yep.
If you had the seats one row behind the dream seats, it would save you an order of magnitude of that's unfathomable.
Maybe 50%.
More, much more than 50%. Meaning from the dream seats to what you would negotiate to a non-dream seat might be 75 or 80%.
Right.
Right. And the fact is, it's okay. Now there's benefits to it. There's a better experience when you take somebody there, but you're doing a lot of internal meetings, a lot of kid stuff. When you're taking your kids, does it really matter if you're the seat behind or the seat? No, you're doing this for you because you want it, and there's nothing wrong with it. But the idea that there is enough fat now, and again, I don't want you to become lazy or complacent, but if you had 2 less games, that would take care of. You sold 2 of your games for face value. Just putting that apples.
Yeah, I mean, they're $1,000 a ticket.
Right, so that's $8,000 or whatever.
Yeah,
$8,000. Take that $8,000. That solves a lot of micro issues. And the idea is, it's just from a mentality that if you, and again, I don't have the answer. I micromanage a lot of the event planning because I know it so well, and I see where there's stuff that if you just, I'll leave you with this story because I think it's a great story. So when I was graduated college and I wanted to throw an anniversary party for my parents. It was their 25th anniversary. I had just graduated Penn. I had no money, and I wanted to do I figured brunch more. It's Manhattan, so it's not easy to do. So I was like, okay, windows on the world. My dad had a tangential business connection to it. They had a great brunch that was $20 all you could drink, or mimosas. It was an awesome deal. So I call up and they're like, I would like to make a reservation for brunch. And they're like, well, how many, do you want to speak to catering, or do you want to speak to the banquets, or do you want to speak to the restaurant? And I'm like, what's the difference? Well, the banquets are $100 a person plus tip and tax, and the restaurant is $19.95. I'm like, I'll speak to the restaurant. They put me through the restaurant. I'm like, what's your, largest room? And they're like, we have a room for 75. Can I make a reservation for 75, please? They said, sure. Again, we had it. The whole thing was $2,000. You'd appreciate this because it's a Jewish event at lunch. The bar bill was less than 500. Right. This is the difference between our families. And it was an epic. It was their 25th. Their anniversary is 9/11. This was their 25th. Their 35th actual anniversary was 9/11. So they're New Yorkers. Again, but the point is, it's how you think about that. Do it on the big stuff. Try not, again, easier advice to give than to take.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I'm at a point now where it's almost every decision I have to make, I have to ask, am I being, penny wise and pound foolish, or pound wise and penny foolish?
Well, do you have a deputy that you can help mentor and train in that?
Well, the deputy is who brought this to me, saying, hey, I really don't understand your logic. Sometimes you're like, hey, just spend the money. And other times you're like, why are we spending $14.99 to overnight something first delivery when they don't need it until the afternoon and we could have saved $5? And he's like, I don't get your logic on here.
Well, but the plot of that now we're down to real brass tacks, which is it's sitting down with somebody and doing that. We did something, our EOS coach talked to us about doing, taking the 20% of your expenses. And I got to tell you, it took me 2 months to extract that. It was a circus. I couldn't even get it. And then when you get the top 20%, it's less exciting than you think, because some of that stuff's like rent,
Right.
and like contracts that are in place that aren't going anywhere. You could change it when they come up for renewal, but like LinkedIn, I'm locked into a contract, things like that. So I would say, and again, it is advice that as I say it, I know, but it's the relationship with the person who is minding it, because otherwise, if you're doing it, it's bad on a bunch of levels.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can't be the one doing it. I need to sit down and have a team my people put this stuff to me. I will tell you this, we started 3 weeks ago, finally, with somebody handling HR, somebody who we didn't hire an HR person. We promoted somebody who had been with us for a while in a paralegal position who seemed suited to the role. And I'll say 19 days in, she is blossoming. I mean, it's been so much is off my plate. It's amazing just to have somebody who everybody can turn to. And she can, if she has to come to me for questions, I get a Slack, answer these 5 questions and I'll take care of it. I got to tell you, I wish I had done this 10 years ago.
Well, I'll tell you, we talked a little bit about this, but what I'll tell you is I've conversed with Bill Biggs, friend of the show. I have eliminated the position of HR within Price Benowitz. It is now, there's a firm ops person, there's somebody doing benefits, there's somebody doing part of their portfolio. We have 3 or 4 administrative people. I've never had this robust of a team, but there's a benefits, there's an onboarding. There are different tasks, and each of those go out. And yes, there needs to be a place where somebody's being sexually harassed. They could go. Right? God willing, that's not a major factor. Right. But the idea that there's a person designated, and I saw this because when I interviewed pure HR, it's ripe with peril. And we went back in the history of the firm's been around for almost 20 years, 17 real, let's say 12 while being scaled. And I had never met a quote unquote HR person that wasn't filled with drama and mediocre. And the only person that wasn't, who sort of fit the bill and did that, ended up sexually harassing 2 of his direct reports and a college intern who was a dear friend's daughter. Like, the idea that, is that something that at our level, when you meet the people at Hilton and Fannie Mae, they're making $250,000, those people are rock stars. But the people that raise their hand to be a small to medium-sized firm, quote unquote HR, I go ops all day long and get stuff done than somebody who thinks that they want that power for usually less money than they would get. If that same person was in the operations track, they would make significant, but they choose this, I think, because they like that ethos. And it's something I'm hoping that, that we're able to peel off and get what we want done without the drama elements.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me, as I look back, the things that I stressed over that I could have easily solved, but I wasn't ready to make that decision. And it goes back to that scarcity mindset. I was like, can I afford to have somebody who's just in this role,
I'm not saying to do that. I'm saying make a list of what you want done, but don't, again, you're home growing somebody. So I'm hoping that you pick the right person, but the lateral, when that person quits, moves on, transitions, when you put out an ad for HR and I look at what we saw, these were people 25 years, 30 years in the business, making 75 to 80, who I'm just sitting there and you look at the personality tests that come back and you're just this is when it breaks or when the disaster, and some of these people were at jobs for years and years and years. They found a place that they could hide, but it just, anyway. When you're posting that job, what you need to do is identify, these are the skill sets that I need this person to accomplish. And that's what you hire for. But when you put the title, it attracts this versus, again, we went with, and it was a bit of some internal strife. One of the stakeholders didn't love the idea that somebody, quote unquote, didn't have HR experience. And I said, just the opposite. I want somebody who knows how to deal with people and can accomplish what we want accomplished. I don't want that. Anyway, I digress. Let's talk AI.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about it, because, in my mastermind, we're talking about it. I actually have been communicating with somebody on LinkedIn who's going to come in and give a little presentation about how we as criminal defense lawyers can use AI. But, there are a ton of things going on with new tools coming out and that type of thing. And what I am seeing is that if you are not trying these things out, if you're not testing out to see what's out there and you're burying your head in the sand, you're talking, you're going to be 2-3 years behind everybody else. And these aren't necessarily tools that are that, like, for example, I got knowledgeable in AdWords long before any other attorney was knowledgeable in AdWords, because I knew there was a way for me to make money doing that. You're not necessarily going to make money directly correlated to your use of ChatGPT, but you'll save money, and that in turn will make you money. But your competitors are going to be using it to be able to scale faster, iterate faster. Your opponents in courtrooms and on the other sides of your cases are going to be using it. I just got, it's interesting. I uploaded Tiger Tactics, right? Where is it here? To a AI program. And I said, here's 175 pages. Give me a 2-page summary of this document. And I didn't use ChatGPT. I used another an AI program. The summary was awesome. I mean, it was literally like, it was all the best bullet points of all the different authors. And I was blown away with how good it was, with hyperlinks to the sections of the manuscript where I could find that exact thing. And it found some parallels between some of the authors that I didn't see on the first time I read it through. And I'm just thinking, for these voluminous discovery cases on the PI side or on the contract side,
it's a game changer.
But what about if you're a lawyer whose job it is to redline contracts? Like if you redline contracts at a big firm, now that's not our audience, right? But some of our audience had been that person at a big firm.
I've been that person.
You redline those things, you stack them up. Now you got AI taking care of it. Oh my God, you're in real trouble. If you're a paralegal whose job it is to support the litigation team and do deposition digests on major litigation, you got some problems. And I'm just wondering how many other things, if we're not using this to our advantage, and really there's a lack of training out there for lawyers how to give the right prompts to these things. And I think that's the thing.
Well, and look, this conversation, we're going to toss in a minute to a great conversation I had with Ken Hardison and Alex Valencia. Ken Hardison from Pilma, Alex Valencia from We Do Web Content, talking about some of the stuff they're going to be having up at Pilma. I hope we get your LinkedIn AI talk. We could maybe splice that into a future episode.
Sure.
At least highlights from that. But I feel angst. You talk about angst on the money piece. I'm less concerned with that. I see money coming in. We in both Blue Shark and at Price Benowitz, we broke out departments to do it. We just set quarterly rocks at Blue Shark, and I pushed hard that we wanted to have 2 items in beta for every department, above and beyond stuff along the lines of, look, I used for Tiger Tactics the record a book technique. I recorded it, went back, and then edited from there. And one of the things that makes that methodology expensive is that historically it needs to be transcribed by a human, even if it's overseas, to then bring back. And the editing time and cost is extraordinary. If we can get for web to the point where, because, as you know, one of the techniques that I love is people being interviewed. It's very expensive. And it actually started becoming more expensive to get web quality content with somebody speaking than writing it directly, which is crazy. If AI allows for the genius of Jay on Connecticut DUI to go straight to a web page with limited costs or reduce costs, where that intersection where it becomes cost, that's a huge deal. And so Tiger Tactic, if the idea that you could get a round of editing or suggested edits where you're looking for grammatical issues, where you're looking for, like, you have how many different authors, each using different tenses. You say, hey, we want everything in present tense. Let's get rid of all those numbnuts who put this in passive voice, all that stuff. If you could start using it for those pieces, it is a game changer. And I definitely feel angst about, am I doing it fast enough? But you know what? I remember and look, something we've discussed on this roundtable conversation is the adaptation. How long did it take to get people online versus how fast has it gotten people to be using ChatGPT as sort of a flagship of this? It hasn't taken long to get crazy numbers of people, playing around with it.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you, I'm a student of history, right? So if you look back, you had the Stone Age, you had the Bronze Age, then you had the Industrial Revolution. I think the last 20 years has really been the Silicon Revolution, where the computers are really taking off. And now we are about to end the Silicon Revolution and we're going into the AI revolution. And these time periods are condensing dramatically as things progress. And I think we need to be aware of that and not say, I'm going to pick this up in 6 months. Because 6 months.
Yes. I'd also say that we never know exactly where it's going. This seems bigger. It seems like it has legs. But look, you just saw Facebook do a huge write-off on Meta. It's still like, where is it going to be in the play? Somewhere. But it's not like we know that there's a particular universe we're going to be in or anything like that.
This is really interesting to me because I remember something years ago, and it was, I forget which Olympics. It was a Winter Olympics. My family's are big skiers, and we were watching freestyle skiing, right? And I can remember them, the guys, they hit the moguls, the women, they hit the moguls, then they go over the jump, they do a flip, then they do some more moguls, then they do another flip. And so for people who aren't aware of that, that's what it is. And we're watching it, and one of the commentator gets up there and says, okay, next up is American Johnny Mosley, and he is not going to score well on this, but watch what he is doing now. Everyone will be doing in 4 years at the next Olympics, but they don't know how to score him yet. And so he's not going to medal, but his run now will be the gold medal run in 4 years. But 4 years from now, he'll be doing something else more progressive. And I think that's kind of where we're at sort of right now with this stuff, in that, there's a lot of people trying to, jam into this space and say, I've got the solution for you as lawyers. And I mean, if you go into my LinkedIn feed, I'm sure in yours, every other post is how to use ChatGPT to scale your marketing, to do this, to do that. But I really think what's going to happen is, if you're not paying attention to this stuff now, you're gonna be a problem. So what I would say is,
I'll just put the positive on it. If you're actually figuring out how to do it, not just playing, but like as you get those different pieces, that will dramatically change the economics of your firm. You talked about margin before, right? So for Blue Shark, we're always looking at what is the cost of a piece of finite content being posted. I'm not looking at writing content that way, but if this could be one of the sets of eyes where there's an extra sift and there's less likely to see a gaffe, which costs reputation and everything else, to me, that's where this stuff, like as that stuff gets integrated. And what's really fascinating, I'll leave you this because we do have to flip out of this, is to watch millennials that used to be ahead of the curve. It's now the Gen Zers that are the ones manipulating it faster because they're first generation with this, rather than people that are sort of like, I'm still the guy that calls when you text me. They're making fun of that now. The younger generation is making fun of them for not being not being AI first.
Yeah, it's funny. I still go to edit, copy, edit, paste rather than Control V, Control C. That's how old school I am. But it's just, it's what you're comfortable with. So this is interesting. So tell us a little bit more about this, and then we'll wrap up and we'll share.
Yeah. So this is an awesome conversation. So Ken, who's a friend of the show, he's doing his summit next month in New Orleans. It's a great thing. What I love about it, PI focused, but it's business of law. There won't be any deposition tutorials or anything like that. So I've totally found a home with my people there. Great talks with some an emphasis on AI. And, basically Ken is looking at this as, hey, if I want to make sure that the people in my herd aren't falling behind, I need to maybe bring them more and more information, so that, and Valencia, who focuses on content, has sort of been a voice of reason. Like, hey, we're not using this for writing of content, but let's find all the different applications. Just because you can't just completely cut out writers doesn't mean that you can't use this amazing technology in great ways. So a fascinating conversation that I hope that our group loves.
Awesome. So what we're going to do now is we're going to sign off. I want to thank you for being with us. Of course, you can always catch us live most Thursdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific, here in the Law Firm Facebook group, or you can take us on the go wherever you get podcasts by checking out the Law Firm Blueprint podcast. Of course, if you do that, be sure to give us 5 stars and make sure that you subscribe so that you can catch up with us whenever we post new episodes. Of course, right now, I want to thank Seth for being with me, and we are going to shoot it over to Seth's interview. So stay tuned for that, and we will see you next week here on the Law Firm Blueprint. Bye for now.
Welcome, everybody. I am very excited. We have never done this before. We have a 3-way podcast here with 2 of my favorites. Ken Hardison with the Law Firm Grow podcast. We have Alex Valencia from the We Do Marketing Hour. It is great to have you both here. We're traveling the country to all these great thought leadership forums, and all we hear about is AI. Yeah. And it is clearly here. I think it's one of those moments that, what the cab industry thought when Uber came. Well, it's going to be different. We don't know how, but I think the landscape in a couple of years will be significantly different. Ken, I know you've been giving a lot of thought to this, and you speak to lawyers from around the country. How are you seeing AI impact things short term, and where do you think we're going? That's what we'll be talking about here for our time together.
Yeah, I think short term, you're going to see lawyers trying to figure out how to use it for marketing. But I think long term, it's going to be used in every aspect of the business, in the management of the files, in contacting clients, in doing demands, and in litigation, handling discovery, depot prep. I mean, it's just so many ways it's going to be used. And my fear is that a lot of lawyers are going to stick their head in the sand, like they did when the website stuff came out. And the ones that took advantage of it killed it for years. And then it took the other ones years to catch up. But, we'll see. We'll see where it goes. I mean, but I think it's the biggest thing since the printing press. I mean, it's just
it's huge. It's definitely huge.
We've heard this before, right? We saw this in the metaverse, where we're all going to be having law firms there. And I kind of took a little bit of a back step. I was weird. Like, I didn't see people going there. I was going to wait to that. Peter Shankman, who'll be speaking at the Super Summit, he had places there for the last 10 years, bought all of Times Square in one of these places. To me, the question is, we are already using AI, right? It's already auto-filling our suggestions on Google. It's already being used by Google to figure out what you want. Alex, content's sort of the epicenter of the AI explosion given ChatGPT. And you and I have talked about this before, but talk to me about, you're an innovative company. We've talked already about the fact that this is not stop writing content, use ChatGPT, but how are you guys leveraging AI within a content first environment?
So we're still looking at it from the perspective of HI as opposed to AI, like human intelligence as opposed to fully artificial intelligence, but we are using and embracing it, right? Just like you said, we don't want to be the taxi cabs to Uber. We don't want to be the Blockbuster to Netflix. And I don't feel like that's the situation. I think there's still a lot of work there. We're experimenting. We put a whole team aside of associate editors and senior editors just to work on the AI. So we're really trying to figure out the prompts on how it really understands. I think the goal here is for anyone and future employees for people in any industry is, how do you learn to manipulate this and learn how to speak to it as a prompt? So when we started back in the internet, back in 99, remember when you had to do a search, it was hashtag something or quotes something, right? To prompt Google to give you the exact information you have. And eventually it became smarter and smarter and smarter. And you didn't have to use those prompts. We just went directly into keywords. So I think we're going in the same way. Is how do I talk to this robot to give me the information I want? It's still too early to have all of the information that's out on the internet. One of the biggest databases that it pulls from is Reddit, right? How much BS information is on Reddit and how much good is on there, right? And that's the issue.
But if that's, that's a pretty, and look, we saw stuff where
it's good info though. It's great.
Didn't even know what, there are points where, depending on its inventory of information, it didn't know what COVID was. Because if it wasn't 2019 and before, it wouldn't even have it. Obviously that will catch up over time. One of the things I find fascinating having spoken to some of the inner people at Google, right? Because Google's not first mover on this. It's an unusual place for us in the last 20 years where Google is not first and foremost. In fact, they've kind of laid an egg. I have no doubt it'll catch up. But Bing, and with their investment, has sort of jumped everybody else. What are your thoughts, given that we have been in a Google first environment? I mean, Ken's entire ecosystem of law firms and marketers has been Google first. All of a sudden, Microsoft comes in with a differentiator. Is that something that will hold, or is this something that is, hey, they got there first, but everybody else will catch up soon?
I think it's a catch-up game. I think I think Microsoft Bing is still one of those where you look at it and you're like, is that really going to be my first search spot? I think what I've seen already, even at our latest conference or any conversation with lawyers that are using it, right? Because that's the world we're in. We're in the legal world, whether it's us marketers or lawyers within that whole space, is just using the app for fun. Right now, people are like, hey, how can I send an amazing text message, create a stupid song? Or some of the really smart attorneys are like, how can I get this to create a demand letter, right? How can I use it for that? And like Ken touched on, is I think a lot of them are looking at it, how can I use for marketing? Amazing for emails. Why spend time trying to generate an intelligent email, right? Even from a marketer standpoint, like, what do I want to say to this guy? This is who I'm speaking to. This is what I want to say. Do it. So I wrote my own and put the information prompts from ChatGPT. It wasn't exactly how I would have said it, but then I told it, combine mine and this one, and it was fucking amazing. Like, it was, and
that's what I'm Ken. That's what I'm chomping at the bit for. One of the things that Blue Shark did and Bryce Benoit did early on was trying to get verbiage directly from lawyers. And it's a process, right? You get it. You got to transcribe it. We didn't at the time find a transcription service that was good enough. AI is getting better and better. And then the idea is, if you can take rougher content as opposed, and get help cleaning it up to the point where the underlying bones are the intelligence of the lawyers, and that you then could produce their words. Because if you just took their words without cleaning it up, and the cleanup cost could exceed the cost of producing content through an Alex or others, then you're at a point where, okay, I can start getting the words of a Ken Hardison out of him and onto the web page in a crawlable format. To me, that's a short-term game changer that we're working on. I can't tell you it's fully there, but it's out there. Whether or not we harness it right's the next question.
Yeah.
Ken, what are you thinking?
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, listen, everybody talks about Chat GPT-4 and all that, but there's so many other apps out there. Lavender helps you with emails. Then you got, the Dolly, which is still in its infancy and still got some bugs in it. But here's something I'm doing right now. I mean, we've gone out and we're finding a company, and I'm going to get in front of a camera for about 15, 20 minutes and read a bunch of scripts and do the certain mannerisms. They're creating an avatar for me. So it'll be me, but it's not me. Okay. It'll be, I'm going to really want to explore and play with it and test it on even social media. Wouldn't it be nice if I could just do a bunch of social media that looks like me, but it's not me? And I don't have to worry about.
Well, that's your dream. I mean, Ken, if you could just be sitting in Key West.
Yes. That's my lifestyle. I told him, I said, I got to have it before Summit, because I'm gonna show it to everybody down there. This is what you can do. And if it's good, then it's good. If it's not good, then they can see. But I really, and for $2,000 a year, I can get 40 minutes of video a month. I mean, we went out and searched. My people went out and searched everywhere. No, I think it's a game changer. I mean, I do, but I think that I feel like we're just in, like what Alex was saying, we're just in the infancy of it, where it's going to just get, and then I think there's ways we're going to use it that nobody's even thought about. I mean, I really do. I think it's going to go faster. I mean, you look at it, over 100 million users in less than 3 months. That's the difference between that and the metaverse. and nobody's Microsoft didn't put $10 billion in the metaverse. I can tell you that. That's why,
to be fair, Facebook did. Facebook did. People did put money there. But as you're saying, there weren't 100 million people playing it.
yeah, and that fast. I mean, it's going so fast.
Well, let me ask you, we got a PILMA Super Summit coming up. Very excited. Back in New Orleans, beautiful venue. It sounds like you have this, you're going to have a fair amount with talking about AI, ChatGPT, et cetera. Tell us a little bit about what's going on there.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, we got it's May 16th through the 18th down in the Ritz-Carlton. We got room block, really reasonable rooms. I think they're less than, I don't even know what they are, but I know they're like half price of what you usually get them for. And we got the whole hotel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we booked the whole hotel. Nobody else is going to be there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And we expect to sell out. We got about 50 vendors there. We limit it to 50. But yeah, we got one of your good friends, Seth, Peter Shankman, who is a futurist, who is a guy that sees things before they happen. Great marketer. We've got Cameron. What's his last name? You know it better.
Harold. Cameron Harold.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know he was coming.
Yeah. He's going to be speaking. And
what he does in addition, I hate to take it away from the AI theme, but what I think he's genius, obviously with the COO of 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and not only is he a great coach, but he has a thing that's not law firm specific at all, but I think everybody in the law firm space is dancing around this space. And a lot of people are trying to crack the code of how do you get not just the leader of the law firm, but the guy behind the scenes or the girl behind the scenes, the COO, and he has a mastermind of COOs that I think is just genius.
Yeah, he's got a program called Second in Command.
Exactly. So the Blue Shark Second in Command is at that.
Yeah, my CEO is doing it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because he can teach you more than I can, for sure. But
and frankly, they teach each other as well. It's a pretty big brain trust. And again, I'm digressing, but since we have time and we're amongst friends, one of the things that I have seen is I've done some higher level coaching. I got one program, a CEO Coaching International, which is like guys make everybody in the PILMA world look like tiny players. These are guys like 8-9 figure businesses selling left and right. Like it's a different animal. But whenever they give vendor recommendations, I find them generally, I won't say off is too strong a term, but not appropriate for what we're doing in life. And that I'm sure they help some people, but they're either very expensive or very niche. And that what I really liked about the COO Alliance is it was bringing people, like-minded people together, and like who solved your problems on payroll and benefits and things that are fundamental to getting through the day that aren't for the hoity-toity, but like actually have proven results to existing firms. And that's been I think the greatest benefit is that we're getting partners in the space, both for Blue Shark and for Price Benowitz, that normally I just can't get to. You see them mentioned at Tony Robbins and you think about the kickbacks that are going through these big organizations. And instead, so I digress, but I think that's one of the huge benefits of Cameron's organization. Yeah.
And like, as far as AI, we got Tanner Jones going to be talking about ChatGPT and how it can be used in marketing. Also have Justin Lovey, who's in one of my masterminds, who is just a brilliant lawyer, but I think even more brilliant marketer. And he's always going to make sure it's a husband and wife presentation. We're going to get to hear from her as well. I don't know. He's the secret sauce back there. Yeah. Miss Lawrence, Amy Lawrence. Yeah, it's so he's using it a lot already. And so he's going to bring practical stuff that he's doing with ChatGPT and some other AI apps that he's trying to really, we go back, and I do want to say this, what Alex was saying. All this AI is not going to replace people, but here's what it's going to do. It's going to make it where you can get as much work with 10 people with one person. Well, 10 times more work, maybe in 5 years, 100 times more productivity than out of one person than you did before. I just see it as a game changer. And with PI overheads going up and up, You know what I'm saying? And everybody's staying at a third or 40%. You've got to figure out some way, or don't your margins are going down. And I think this is the answer. I mean, one of them's been outsourcing overseas, but I really think, and we'll have somebody talking about that too at the deal at the summit.
Yeah, who's speaking on that at the summit?
The guy LegalSoft Solutions. What I can't remember his name.
LegalSoft, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to be talking. They're one of our sponsors. And
look, I got to think it's going to be a combination of all, right? So we see domestic costs, and Alex, myself, on each independently on podcast talked about the cost of labor. And it's not that we're getting rid of domestic labor, right? But anything we can do that allows us to keep the precious people we have, whether it be leveraging international and or AI or both, meaning together. Both. Then all of a sudden we are in a position, Alex, I don't know how much you guys have used international, but just want to get your thoughts on the intersection of layering, domestic labor, international labor, and AI in order to try to sort of make sure that you're getting stuff done at the most competitive price point. Because I know your world, and your world is about, getting people value to feed the Google beast at a cost-effective rate. How have you done that?
So I've got a partnership with, actually we're probably going to launch, and this is between friends, but it's eventually going to be live too, starting a whole Spanish side marketing. So I have a whole company and a gentleman that I've been working with for 5 years now that produces all of my SEO Spanish content. Together, he and I are, it's going to actually reduce my cost significantly by partnering with him and marketing that side of it. But he also does radio, TV, SEO. But I've been purchasing my Spanish content and working directly with him and my editors and my team. So we built our own internal team. I think we're going to go live with it, where we go full Spanish soon. But that was a great way for us to leverage costs, using that outsource from Colombia and Mexico, mostly Mexico, where it was using those international labor for that. So that, I think that was a great opportunity for us. The English, you remember when we started this, Ken, I've known you since probably 2010, and Seth early on. I remember I was able to get content like a 500-word page for $19, right? And then it would come inside in-house, and then we would spend like $50 on it, right? So then we would be spending, selling it for a certain amount. Now the cost of content skyrocketing, which is why the AI comes in. I think the human intelligence is still important, but if there's a way to incorporate the AI eventually to where it gets it to the right place. And you nailed it, Seth, when you said, can we get the language of the attorney, which is what we've been doing with our software and creating our own internal client profiles for every client that we manage, right, is we have their database, their client profile, the words they want to use, the words that they don't want to use, all in our own internal AI before AI came out, for us to create content for them. I think it's just going to enhance it all, right? Hopefully, I don't think it'll reduce costs significantly because of the AI. I think I'm not so sure.
I think once we figure it out, not that it's just going to be, and look, who knows what it will reduce for everybody eventually. But I'll give you an example. I'm curious because, Ken, one of the reasons I went first overseas during the pandemic, where I went and now have 35, 40 people, employees for both Price Benhouse and Blue Shark in Latin America on top of a full domestic team, was that I was paying this huge premium for bilingual labor in the DMV, right? And the question whether you're Spanish English or English Spanish, should it matter? But this has been something, and Alex and I Ken, I'm sure your clients or partner law firms that are part of PILMA have struggled with is, I can't tell you over the years, when I hired somebody to write, this even before Blue Shark, hired somebody to write a page in Spanish, and they were all excited, and I had it edited, and it was great. And people are like, oh yeah, that's good if you live in Colombia, but it's no good for Mexico. And these are the things where theoretically I would hope that AI is going to take us where a page of content could be individualized, where you now could speak directly to a particular population without having to write a brand new piece of content for each one. That's sort of the types of thing where you could get it to give you nuance that you're not I don't speak Spanish, so I couldn't do this myself. But if nothing else, be a checks and balances to know the different, nuances between the different forms of Spanish that are out there. What are your thoughts?
That'd be brilliant, because Colombia alone has like 7 dialects within the whole country, right? Like,
right.
So even that, so it's like you prompt it and say, turn this into how someone from Medellin would speak. If it could do that,
or better yet, you get somebody from wherever, Mexico, whatever. Can you turn this in? How can you sanitize it to get rid of those local nuances so that you could have which is what's considered universal, like Barcelona Spanish?
No, that would be too.
No, so what's like, how can you
Castellano.
strip it of everything? I mean, Ken, you've seen people, and had a lot of people come to Pilma pitching Spanish specific marketing, for example.
Yeah.
We want to get your thoughts, because as excited as we are, we've also seen a lot of people come with not ready for prime time products that sold them and crashed and burned. How many, if we had invested in every single person doing geofencing from the beginning of time, we would have wasted a lot of money, right? So how do you advise a law firm that wants to get and leverage this new technology without getting burnt, that they're getting something because it sounds like the shiny object that they should buy?
And that's what you got to work out there. There's going to be a lot of people out there, hucksters. What I would do, this is what I think, and I'm looking into right now. I think every law firm should invest in a prompt engineer for AI. Because Alex, you use that word a lot today. And that is the key to AI, is knowing how to ask the questions. It's if you know how to ask the question, and that's prompts. If you know how to write the prompts, and you know your field, and you know how to write the prompts, then you're a gold mine. I mean, listen, you can name your price. I really believe that to start with. If you're good, I mean, I looked up something. They said prompt engineers, 160, 180,000 a year.
Already? Oh, there's someone already marketing themselves as that.
But to be fair,
so I have someone. We have a personal friend.
Nobody else is raising their hand on that.
Right, so, nobody's raising, but it's very brand new. Like you didn't just become a prompt engineer in the last 2 months, right? Since this is
actually, I think sadly, I'll play the other side of that out. I think a lot of people did just become a prompt engineer because
we have a personal
2 months ago, a
friend,
prompt engineer was worth.
Who's doing that exactly, and he's doing it for us. So we didn't hire him full time, but he's doing he'll be doing a whole prompt training for us, but he still hasn't got it. Like my internal content guy is not allowing any of that content to come through, no matter how much he keeps manipulating it and putting in the prompts, because it's still not good enough for legal. It's not. He did it for mortgages. He did it for like landscaping. He did it for my brother's business, but it's not there for legal. We know our clients. I know my lawyers. And I think eventually, once we crack the code on it, I'm going to sell a tier, an AI tier, but my premium tier is still going to be human intelligence, because you got to know the lawyer. You got to know how pissy he's going to get when something's incorrect. You know this, Seth. You know how many lawyers have been pissed off by one piece of content. So
look, and that's right. And look, that's the question, right? Because I could sit with Alex on the couch right now, right? The lawyers that don't like any content. My law partner literally could rewrite his own briefs from a year ago if I put it in front of him. He wouldn't even notice and rewrite
he wouldn't know.
Right. And then the people don't look at anything, right? So I guess they wouldn't care as much. But we care about, Ken, making sure that Google loves it, because as long as Google is still king, we need to make sure. And look, this is the part I thought, and I think I'm wrong on it, but the idea that Google's going to actually have a checker to see what's AI versus not AI, but what they
don't care anymore.
Well, they care in that the last 2-3 years about high quality content.
Yeah.
Right.
They don't care if it's AI or not, as long as it's high quality.
Right. Is it high quality? But the problem is, like, one of the fictions we deal with, and you've asked me this a number of times, like, Seth, why should Google care if you have the same content for 20 different counties in a state? The state law is the same. We've had this conversation. So AI would be the best thing ever to replicate it for all these different locations. The problem is they're pulling out of a finite universe, whether it be, whatever it is. So at some point, it will be repetitive. We don't feel it because we're like, wow, this is
brilliant. But we would feel that if I went to one of Alex's clients and read their webpage, I'm like, this is brilliant. You still can't copy it onto your site. So it's first getting it good enough, and then second, having the assumption that the universe, so pictures, right? Everyone's all excited. We can make Ken beautiful. Ken could be a Ken doll. But if they're pulling the graphic images to make the new Ken off of trademarked or copyrighted material, that's a whole other world that we're about to step into.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
Man, great. We could talk about this all day long. Well, I'm super stoked for May. I forgot it was like right around the corner for us to be in New Orleans together. We were just together at Mass Torts Made Perfect last week, had a great lunch, great conversation, which is what pivoted us
Prompted
to doing
this.
and prompted this call, which is great. I think we should do more of these. I think the combination of 3 different perspectives is absolutely intelligent for all the lawyers, for any other marketers that are out there. We'd love to have more conversations, but I'm stoked, man. New Orleans, and I got to give it to you, Ken. Since 2010, you've been an integral part of the relationship with our company and us gaining clients, vendors out there. If you have not signed up for PELMA, this is a conference that, and even if you're not a vendor, if you go and pay the price as a lawyer, one of the mastermind, whatever angle you take to attend PELMA, it is going to be your stepping stone to the next one. And I'm gonna call out all the masterminds who are out there. My first mastermind was Ben Glass. Shortly after Ben Glass, my boy Ken Hardison. Ken Hardison launched all these different masterminds that now one lawyer has, another lawyer has, another lawyer has over here. All of them started from this dude. He was the root. They all created branches from it. If you want to learn and get into a group of people and start launching yourself, call my boy.
And I'm going to be much more superficial because I've been to I've been a PILMA groupie since Atlanta, but which goes back to right around 2010. I think the second-ish PILMA. But to be able to get with this many smart people, and you walk around the room, and you'll see guys that are like, $100 million firms, multi-$100 million firms, walking with guys who just started. The sharing in there and the openness, great. Ritz-Carlton in New Orleans for a couple $100 a night. You can still have rooms left?
Yeah.
Yeah. To me,
I love that you got the whole hotel.
Yeah. First time we ever did it, but we decided to go for it.
I mean, to be in New Orleans with the hotel itself is this just gorgeous place with amazing gumbo, great learning and sharing.
The oysters, you got to have the oysters.
And to me, like the PILMA as a home base for people, for people like myself who don't want to be in court and who want to build our business, most places you go and it's like a track or a class, but the idea that you get nothing but the best and brightest thinking and working on how to build your firm up, to me, it's always been a gift.
Thank you. You guys are way too kind, but I appreciate it. But we do try to give value. We try to give value. And, I will brag about one thing. We've had a money back guarantee since 2009. Anybody goes to the summit after the first day, I'll give them their money back. Plus, it used to be $5,000, now it's $1,000 documented travel costs. And I've never had nobody ask for the money back in 14 years. Well, 14 years. This will be the 15th year.
Wow.
So yeah.
Well, we can't wait to be there. A lot of look, it'll be all the fundamentals that are there. But what I love about this year is it's going to be forward facing and thinking about what's next.
Yeah.
Because every law firm needs to be there. And again, it's not like it is not like if you're not there right now, it's too late. We're just at the infancy. I remember being part of the early .com bubble, and to think about what was going on in the mid to later 90s compared to now. It's just remarkable. So let's make sure we strike while the iron's hot. Well, thank you very much, Ken and Alex.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. I hope this is the first of many, but it's a lot of fun having all this brain power on one podcast and syndicating it out through all these amazing channels.
All right, my friends. Y'all have a good day.
Very good. We'll see you at the summit.
All right. See you there.